right, well, welcome everybody. Thank you. Valerie Lovelace, would you like to come up and lead us in the pledge?
Receiver for the small microphone.
Yes, this is actually a funny story. I have said this every day of my 30-year teaching. At the very beginning of every day, I've done. Oh, is it on my?
It's on. Get close.
Okay, I have said this every day of my life of my teaching career for 30 years, and yet every time I get up in front of a group to say it, I lose it. So I actually have it written down in case I lose it. Okay, ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And Greg, do you have an inspiration for us today?
I do. Today's inspiration is from James Baldwin.
Could you come up to the
Greg, come
microphone?
up here.
Otherwise, you're not going to inspire.
Okay.
Zoom won't hear you.
Sorry, thank you. Today's inspiration is from James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced.
Thank you, everyone. Do we have any visiting Rotarians? Few names or few phone numbers I'm not sure about, but it doesn't look like we've got anybody on. And how about guests? Jody.
I'd like to introduce Danielle Conroy. She is our mortgage officer for Rotary. She kind of works over Grants Pass and Medford. I'm sure maybe we'll get to hear a little bit more about her a little later, but I'm excited to have her today.
Danielle Conroy from Banner Bank, in case anybody didn't hear. Anyone else? And we've
I
got
may
some-
have two guests there.
Oh, yeah, Mike?
I may have a guest named Jeff Williams in person, and I may have a guest named Bob Schaller in person, but I can't see whether they're there or not.
Is there a Jeff or a Bob? I don't see Bob. I don't see Jeff either. Not today. We'll keep an eye.
Okay,
We'll keep an eye out for them. I know we've got some prospective members. So Kirk, I'm gonna
Once again, we have Donna Starr.
welcome Donna. Donna Sparrow submitted her application. Anyone else? All right, and we have posted, I believe, an application for Michelle Kite, who has submitted her application to join the club. So wonderful. Announcements. I'm going to ask if you have an announcement to come up to the mic so everyone can hear you on Zoom land. I know I've got Serena who wants to make an announcement, and then Greg and Patty and Jody. And Jan. And raise your hand on Zoom if you have an announcement. Hello, it's Serena. So we just had Halloween, so that means it's Road Winterfest time. And I am coming to ask for volunteers. I am coordinating the volunteers, so you'll get to work with me and get lots of really warm hugs. But yeah, if you would like to volunteer, it's a beautiful event. If you haven't been there, I would love for you to come and see the space. It's just magical, and I'm blown away every year by the generosity of our community and the beauty of the trees. So come see me. I have cards. I believe it's in the Navigator. Yay, please, or thank you so much. And all right, thank you. All right, who's next?
Oh, we're next. Okay, I am talking about Sergeant of Arms, and today's Sergeant of Arms is Kelly Moody. But we do need people to sign up for Sergeant of Arms. You get to come up here and be a goofball. Are you laughing because you like that idea? Because we're not goofy enough? Okay, she likes that idea. So anyway, generally speaking, we ask you to sign up. Generally speaking, we ask you to sign up and not have your phone with you turned on. The phone just rang. Sign up for about a month, which is whatever it is, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and you kind of have the authority or privilege to kind of run it any way you want. You can do a little game show, you can tell stories, you can ask the audience to tell stories, whatever you want to do. So the first 4 people, you can give things away. The first 4 people that sort of commit to signing up sometime in the future, either make a mental note to yourself or actually sign up. Sign-ups are with Gina Marie, or she's pointing back there, they're back there. Or we can probably do it online as well. If you send Gina Marie an email or myself an email. The first 4 people, if you want to do that, let me know. I've got these fantastic goodie bags that I spent many hours decorating and preparing for you. And Patrice, I wrapped them. I did all this for you. Patrice might talk about what's in here, wherever Patrice is.
Oh my God.
Do you know what's in here, Patrice? Patrice, Patrice, and Patrice at the food bank luckily got a pallet load of chocolate candies from Harry and David. So there's a lot of candy to be given away and eaten. So
Okay, I'll sign up.
chocolate caramels, Greg signed up. So anyway, first 4, let me know.
They are amazing. Okay, next. Hi, everybody. I want to talk to the lady, well, men and women, about your laundry. We have these great big jugs that you can buy at Costco that go into a landfill and take forever and ever. But I've been using Clean People, which comes with a little sheet like this. And for 1 load of laundry, you use this. For your delicates, you use this. And it all dissolves. Made in Canada. Another one that Cheryl Walker introduced me to is called Earth Breeze. Now it comes in a sheet. Well, it's stuck. Another sheet. Oh, that was the wrong sheet. I'll get there.
No sheet?
No sheet. Okay, this is the one from Clean People. See, it comes like that. So anyway, totally energy efficient. Your washing machines. This one is the same idea. And I've used this because Cheryl Walker introduced me to it, but it's made, however, it's made in China. But both, this is all you have to do. And this is good for 60 loads of laundry. And this box is for 96. You can check it out on the internet. You can do Clean People or Earth Breeze. Thank you for your time. How does it work? Excellent. Okay. I've been using this one for over 2 years. I got older.
Hi there. So we had a day of service scheduled for this coming Saturday. And at the Dr. Pig Farm, getting the seeds out of delicata squash. And you would have been able to take home a couple of pieces for yourself. But our good new member here, Patrice, has been so successful in getting volunteers. We had 10 of them on Tuesday cleaning the seeds out that we've canceled the day of service. So we're all done. So we'll figure out another thing to have fun at the farm.
Everybody, just a quick reminder about your blue bags that you're collecting your returnable bottles and cans in. Save them, fill them, save them. Don't turn them in until November 15th through December 1st. We'll get a 20% extra bonus match if you turn them in during that holiday period. If you're new, the bags are up in the front at the entry desk, and they come complete with a little scanning sticker. On the north side of the building, behind the Bobby Drop building, which is across from Grover's, you can just drive up, hop out with the scanning tag underneath the little scanning reader. The door, green light will go on. You can open the door, slide your bag in, close the door, you're finished. So remember, November 15th to December 1st. Thanks.
And we did start a check for $350 a bottle top.
Well, the backpack program is really ramping up. I cannot believe, like Serena said, we've got a giving community. Has nothing on this club. We've got a giving club.
Yeah.
Not only did I get 2 different people come up last week after the program and donate $100 each for the program. I had another Rotarian give me $250 or notified me that she donated in $250. And I just got notification of another one for $200. So it's going to help us be able to put more things in the backpack. One of the things to go along with the peanut butter is, I told you how expensive the peanut butter is this year, even for a small container. We were talking about, well, shoot, peanut butter, what goes with peanut butter? Jelly. So want to see about getting some jelly to be able to go in the backpacks as well. And then Delynn has been working with Fran's bakery over here, and we can get 2 loaves of bread for $3. And then if you buy a certain amount, then you get more for free. So for this year, she's trying to find out what that cost will be. Not that we will pack those in the backpacks. What we'll do is we'll see about getting the bread, taking it to the school so that the teachers can then, give a bag to the kids so that they're not squishing them in the backpack. So that won't be part of the stuffing, but it will be part of what we're planning on giving the kids. So based on your generosity, we're able to give more non-perishable foods or things that can help tide them through this holiday season when they're not at school and being able to get some meals. Again, I thank you for the great idea for the Go Fish cards. It's just everything has been coming together extremely well. So I've got most of the supplies have already been delivered to my branch, just kind of waiting for it to come, and we're almost there at December 12th. And like I said, almost everybody, it seems like, has signed up to be there. So I am so thrilled. And it's actually going to be helpful because I'm changing up a little bit the way that we're going to be doing it this year. I'm going to ask, instead of where a lot of times where people grab 2-3 bags and be able to fill them and go through, I'm going to slow us down a little bit in the fact that I want everybody just to take 1 bag to make sure that we're getting things going. There's been too many times I found we had way excess of something and maybe something else ran out early. And mind you, I'm not going through and counting when I'm getting stuff from grocery outlet to confirm that, yes, I got 216 of everything. I mean, that's what I was supposed to get. But this way it'll work. And it's also going to give the Interact kids something to be able to do, because I'm going to help ask them to help assign them to taking the bags, double verifying what we've got in there so that each backpack is the same. So thank you all for your work. It's coming up. It's exciting. So December 12th, 5 o'clock for the stuffing, which is a Monday. And we'll see you there because you guys all signed up.
Right, any other announcements? I don't see hands on Zoom. Okay. So today is one of our favorite kinds of programs. We try the first of each month to hear a member vocational. So that's an opportunity for us to learn a little bit about one of our members, usually one of our newer members. And that is the case today. We're going to hear from Patrice Hanlon, who is the outreach coordinator at the Josephine County Food Bank. And we're excited to learn more about her. So Patrice, if you want to come up, we'll get your PowerPoint started.
It should be on the desktop.
I see it, but I'm not sure.
Can everybody hear me?
Okay.
This one.
But I
Sure. All right, so I don't understand. This must be it.
So I did it on a Mac, but now it's on a PDF, so it may be a little. I think that's probably why.
Meaning, like, next. Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's up there. Do you see it?
We do, but it's. Oh, just scroll one
Yeah,
to
you're gonna have
next.
to, yeah.
Yeah,
that's-
okay.
yeah, it's
Cool, okay, I can do that.
All right, so I looked at the form Debbie sent me, so I kind of went by that, starting with my roots. And my family immigrated from Ireland. My grandfather, Daniel Hanlon, grew up in that house on the left, and in 2015, I think, my husband and I finally went over there, and I got to see the farm that is still in our family, being run as a farm, and meet my cousins. And the house that was there is now, which you can't see, but it is a pile of rubble. And that is the old chicken coop. But
They built a couple more houses on the property, but so I got to go there. And my mother's family also came from Ireland. Her maiden name was O'Hanlon, Hanley. So we figured that they're from the same tribe somewhere along the way. They both immigrated. My mom's family were coal miners up in upstate Pennsylvania, and my father's family came to Philadelphia. So that's that. Next one. I grew up in Pennsylvania, and this is one of my favorite pictures of myself as a kid. In the top, my father was a huge gardener. My mother was a huge gardener. They both like to say it was in our DNA as Irish. My mom lived in the city, but as a kid, she always went to upstate Pennsylvania, where she learned how to garden and can and quilt and do all these things with her grandmother, and then would come back home, and her mother did nothing like that. So she waited, and then when she met my father, they both, we lived in a little area in Pennsylvania that really, I looked at it almost like Little Ireland. It was a lot of kids that they went to high school with in Philadelphia. As they started to climb the corporate ladder, which was the 60s, they were able to move their large families out to the suburbs.
Excellent.
Next one. This is one of my favorite pictures because it's Easter and my mom has her Christmas wreath up. And I'm going to tell you why. So I have my love, as we go through the rest of the slides, you'll see where my life goes. There's a thread. But she always wanted everybody to get in front of the Christmas wreath to get our pictures taken at Christmas time. But as you can see, you know, there's teenagers in there and stuff. So the next time she could get everybody together was at Easter. And she used to say, I'm not taking the wreath down till I get everybody in front of that wreath, which she made every year. So as a kid, we used to forage and be in it, just making a lot of stuff. And I'm talking about that because you'll see as I go through my presentation where my life ended up. Okay, and then I'm just going to show you. Which one's you? Oh, I'm in with the little yellow sash. That is me. I was number 4 of 7. My sisters used to like to say I was the baby of the first family because they thought I got special treatment because the first 4 of us are just a year apart, and then it was 3 years, 3 years, 3 years. Yeah, so that's me. And then this is the last photo I have of all of us together, which was taken on my dad's 80th birthday. Both of my parents have since died, and my oldest sister, who's on the left, she passed away a couple years ago. But the rest of us are still here and thriving all over. Well, they're all on the East Coast. I'm the only one on the West. So I kind of made that sojourn when I was in college. I'm going to start next, before we go to the next slide. I'm going to read a poem because one of the things that I like in all my teaching, and you'll learn more about that as I go on. I love poetry. I love to write, and I love art. And so I'm going to read this poem, which is actually by William Stafford, who's actually used to teach in Oregon. So if you know his work. And I love this because it kind of is how my life went. There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder what you're pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it is hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. And I love this poem because my father, I think being a product of the Depression, was always wanting to know what your plan was. And I really didn't know what my plan was as I was getting out of high school, you know, and he wanted to know, what are you going to pursue? What are you going to do? And I went to college for a year, and then I had the opportunity to do a cross-country trip with a friend of mine who I met in college, whose father had died. And she was going to France, but her mother needed someone to drive the van to get to California to go visit her family. So I got to spend 3 months traveling across the country and landed in Berkeley, where I knew some friends that were going to Cal. And I never went back. Pennsylvania. So it was all that, and I was like, what are you going to do? Anyway, so long story short, I went to school originally I wanted to either be in education or a social worker. And what I like to say is through all the thread, that is what I ended up doing without actually having a degree in that. I ended up with a degree in horticulture. But all the programs I did were about education and socializing. So anyway, next slide. So this is my special place. I do meditation classes and different things with the cancer support community in California, not so much anymore. And one of the things I would always do, because when you're working with anybody, it's like you always should have a place in your mind that you can go to that brings you peace. And so this is my place, which is at Ridley Creek, which is in Pennsylvania. And oddly enough, this is where I played with my siblings. And it's now, since 1976, been a park, state park, where cars cannot actually go into this area because there's so many historic homes. So I could take my kids to where I played as a child, and it still looks the same, even to this day. So this is something from one of my classes when I do a lot of writing with, when I'm working with the cancer support community, but this is my memories of my youth. Remember the understory, the growth, thick and lofty, the soft bedding where we dreamed under a canopy of hickories, white pines, and black walnut. Little did I know that I would come to love the earth so passionately. Perhaps it's embedded in my Celtic roots, my DNA. So that's my place that I go to. So if you have a place and you're stressed out, go there.
Next one.
Next one. That's my childhood house, which I just went to. That's a current photo. My daughter and I and my husband were back, all my other families in the East, for a wedding in the beginning of October. And I always like to go by the house. And what's interesting about the house is my parents both died in 2014. And a friend of my sister's was a contractor, and he bought the house, and the house was built in 1963. So he pretty much just modernized the inside. They had a lot of little rooms. There were 7 kids. That whole upstairs was like our own playroom. Anyway, so what's interesting when I go back is all the landscaping was redone. So it almost looks to me like it looked outside when my parents first were building the house, because they did everything from the ground up. And there's a family of 3 there, and I got to talk to them, and they were cute because they wanted to ask me questions about the house. So this was where I grew up. A great spot in Pennsylvania. That's my daughter, Amelia. You can go to the next slide. So this is my little family. My husband is on the left, obviously. He was my high school sweetheart, but I broke up with him when I started college, and then I moved to California. And I don't know, 30 years later, we got back together. I had been divorced. He still lived in Pennsylvania. He didn't have any kids. He came west. I was lucky. My oldest daughter, Meredith, is on the left. My daughter, Amelia, who was in the photo with me, is in the middle. And then my son, Kyle, is next to me. This was taken 2 years ago when I fractured my tibia. You can't see it, I have a cast on, which is good. So I'm going to read something else, because one of the things of being a mom, I felt really lucky to be able to stay home with them. And then after I got divorced, I worked for a nonprofit, and they took me on as a full-time position so I could get medical benefits and still work for them. So I really feel my whole life has been in the nonprofit world. So anyway, I think they all are just beautiful, wonderful human beings. And when I did a talk in 2012 for a preschool about how you could get kids involved in nature. So at that time, Meredith would have been 25, Millie would have been 22, and Kyle would have been 21. So I wrote them each an email, and I said, what do you feel like when you grew up always gardening and that with me? And Meredith said, I have many great memories from our backyard. Oh, that's my son. I always enjoyed digging a small hole with my finger, then covering it with seed and dirt. I enjoyed picking fruits and vegetables that you told me were the good ones to pick. And then he said, you have to bring up the cherry tomatoes. That's my favorite story, but I'm not going to tell you that because I don't have enough time. I enjoyed looking at the different colors of the flowers and how each one had their own character, small, big, oddly shaped, etc. But I would have to say now that I think about it, as a kid in a big garden like ours, it almost was like another world. You see and smell and appreciate things that every single person walks by, steps on every day. It was a big place for a little person, and I felt surrounded by a beautiful and peaceful place. Never once was I sad in the garden, unless maybe a bug ate through a tomato I wanted to pick. Most of my great memories with you came from some sort of garden or adventure, pointing out plants, trees, picking things, collecting whatever it was to be collected. Something weird that caught my eye at the time. I think now that even though I'm not around a garden every day, I appreciate wildlife, plants, trees much more than anyone else my age, because he was only 21. I was actually surprised he wrote this. I enjoy and feel happy to be in a quiet area filled with trees or to just be in nature. I think that's something I learned with you. I also remember having my own little section of the garden, and that was neat because it was simply because it was mine, and you had a big one, and so it was special to me. My daughter Amelia, who's actually on the spectrum, and she was always we just always had really great imaginative play. So this was great that she wrote. Some of my favorite memories about our garden growing up is it felt like a magical place. It reminded me of the movie The Secret Garden. There was never anything we couldn't touch, and you always let us be free to be imaginative, and we would play out there. Also, we would play in Honeybee Land and have tea parties. Honeybee Land was named Honeybee Land because they were afraid of the bees. So I was like, no, the bees aren't going to hurt you. Our garden gave us the chance to play and explore, and you as a mom also gave us that. And then my older daughter, who, as I used to say to Amelia, Meredith's a head person, Kyle's really physical, and Amelia's a heart girl. And Amelia used to say, because she was sandwiched between two very strong personalities. I don't want to be a heart girl. I want to be a head girl. Anyway, Meredith said, I still remember the exact way borage tastes and where it was planted in your garden. It doesn't really taste good, but it is a novel thing, I guess, to be able to eat a flower. The edible plants are probably the most memorable, though I don't remember eating them. I do remember things like thinking tomatoes plants smelled gross and giant tomato hornworms, picking potted mint, and finding crazy shapes of squash. A lot of people are disconnected from where their food comes from. Alex, who was one of her friends, will still tell about how he was shocked as he looked in our vegetables in our refrigerator and nothing was packaged. I think having an edible garden cultivates a curious mind and encourages more wholesome eating. And now I will eat anything that I was picky about when I was little, tomatoes included. Also the sunflower fort. So happy. I liked looking at your books and garden designs in them, probably because I liked maps. So that's my kids in a nutshell. And they're all beautiful people. That's who I have. And my husband is. And as somebody who works for a nonprofit, he works for a nonprofit because you get everybody involved. I went back to school later. I was fortunate enough to get an internship at the Regional Parks Botanic Garden in Berkeley, California, which is a very well-known garden. And at that time, I got my degree in environmental horticulture. I specialized in ethnobotany because I love plants. I love the stories that plants can tell. So I developed a lot of walks and talks around the plants in that garden. And then from there, it was a 3-year paid internship, which was super cool. I went into, you can go to the next slide. I worked for another nonprofit developing curriculum called, well, we ran 3, it was Aquatic Outreach Institute, but we ran programs for teachers. So we were creating curriculum that had all the science standards, and then they could use it in their classrooms. We had kids in creeks, kids in gardens, and kids in marshes. Then I also went on, I really worked with every age. So when my kids were little, I used to run the environmental ed programs in their school. But this is a group of kids that were out doing a watershed project. So we were always working in the nonprofit that I worked for, clean water programs. And you have to start with kids because then they think about it, take it home. So that was one of my many nonprofit jobs. This is the gardens at Heather Farm in Walnut Creek. It's a public nonprofit garden, and it sits on 100 acres in an urban area. And it was a 6-acre demonstration garden. that I got hired to be the garden director for, and I was there for 15 years. And when I started there, they were spraying pesticides, they were doing everything that was not sustainable. And I was always proud to say that in the 15 years that I was there, we turned that into a completely organic rose garden. People used to come in and say, why are your roses always blooming? You know, mine will bloom and then they'll stop. And it's because of the way we work the soil and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that was an amazing place to work. It really developed me in my love of horticulture, but also in my love of working with volunteers and teaching. And so at some point, I was like, I'm getting old. I'm not going to be able to do this physical 6 acre, because I did everything. You know, I was running a propagation, you're physically working. And I had been thinking about therapeutic horticulture because I'd been reading about it, and more studies have come out about the therapeutic properties of just being in nature. And so luckily for me, I was at a conference in San Francisco, and I met a woman who was from Denver, and they were running a horticultural therapy institute. So you could get a certification that goes through, so you could be certified to work as a therapist. And what that does is you're really working in concert with OT and PT, but you're using the garden or nature or the greenhouse for facilitating the same kind of things. So I like to use the analogy of, let's say you've had something where you need to work your hands and you're like having you squeeze a ball. Well, they would put people in a greenhouse misting plants, and you're getting the exact same benefits. So there's all kinds of techniques that are used, and a lot of PTs and OTs are now actually going back and incorporating those kind of programs into their work. Anyway, that's the garden to heaven. And that's me. This is, you always find me, I'll either be looking down, picking something up, putting it in my pocket, making my husband carry rocks. He will say that. So if you scroll up just a tiny bit more, perfect. So this is, I took the giant leap in 2015 to work for myself because I really wanted to get into working with the therapeutic aspect. So this was my logo. And Pura Vida, I mean, that to me is exactly how I like to live my life. And I was thinking about the Rotary, you know, it fits right into everything that Rotary does. But I loved my work, and I worked with a lot of different groups. I worked predominantly with high school students on the autism spectrum. I worked with adults that were living independently but were on the spectrum. And I worked with youth groups. I worked with the city of Walnut Creek developing public spaces, which are going to be on my slide. So for me, when I look at inspire, transform, and heal, it's not just people, but the land. So I'm always part of my programs that I developed when I was at the Gardens at Heather Farm were called Discovering Your Sense of Place, because a lot of people can stand in their yard and they don't even know where north is. So it's like trying to teach people about where do you actually live and how do you, this was of course putting plants in, but how do you interface with where you live? These are just going to be some photos. This was the city of Walnut Creek. They got some money for clean water, and then I ran volunteers to develop this pollinator garden in a public park. I just threw in some photos. And then this is another one, Markham Arboretum was another organization that when I was working for myself, I ended up being on their board. And so I developed some garden space that they needed to do. So this was just a garden in there, one of theirs. Those are just some of the kids. I love working with kids. I love getting the kids out. A lot of times they start out, but then once you have them out for periods of time, a lot of kids I would work with for a whole school year in some of the public places, they come out either once a month or twice a month. And by the end, it's like they really bought into what they were doing. And I would incorporate curriculum within that. And how do you scroll to the next one? Oh, this is, they're out of sync, but anyway. This was one of the groups I also worked with people with dementia. One of the things about dementia and plants is that people can relate to things that they grew up with. So whether it's a scent or a texture or something, so horticultural therapy is really interfaces well in senior homes. In fact, I just read somewhere recently, somebody here is looking for somebody to do some therapeutic stuff. So I wrote it down. I don't remember who it was. Anyway, so this was just a group. This was at the Gardens at Heather Farm when I was there. This is in the classroom.
Nice.
This is one of my favorite clients ever. This was, this is Jill. And we, this was one of the facilities I worked where they would come out and come once a week. We developed a garden that they were cooking from. They were learning cooking skills. They were learning a lot. These are independently living, but needed assistance. And this was springtime. And so all of my programs, and even when my kids were little, it always revolves around the seasons, not the months. So this was the equinox. We were looking at birds' nests and talking about birds, and then they made a bird's nest out of just materials that I brought. And she was so excited. She's such one of my favorite people. And this is just a collage of the different, just different programs that I ran. The one at the top left is that same, and the one below is the Adaptive Learning Center with, I just showed you Jill. And then the other two at the top, this one up top was called RES Success. And these were students that really were more on the spectrum where they would not ever be working or anything. But they used to come out and we did a lot of journaling. I did a lot of things with watercolor and just looking at colors of the day and collecting seed pods and making things from that, because that anybody can make anything from nature, and I'm obsessed with it. The guys on these are the other, yeah, you can keep going. That's just more kids in the program. And then my work with the cancer support community, probably for me, was really very, it just taught me a lot about people that are resilient. I mean, just, I met so many amazing women there who had cancer numerous times. I made friends who I've lost to cancer from there. But I would do things from, you know, this is making reads to going out and do meditation walks, to do, like, it varied. And the whole thing about cancer support is when you walk in there or anywhere like that, when I was teaching, is for those 3 hours, we're going to just be here. You know, this is what, to be able to try and focus on where we are. So I used to grow everything from my classes. I'm like obsessed with propagating plants. And so it was really fun for me. I had a big space at my other house. I actually have a good space now. You can keep scrolling. And that's just me with some of the, this was one of my favorite things to do. I would gather these big eucalyptus bark, comes off the trees in December or November when you get your first storms. And I would use this for all modality, any of the people I was working with, because you would just get these big pieces of bark that you could then decorate any way you could. So I could work with my students that were low functioning and they could still make something absolutely beautiful. My husband was great. We would come out and drag him along. He would, what are you plucking that for? This is just one close up. I mean, it's just, I'm a forager. I'm always foraging. I'm always looking for stuff. All right. So this is my, what's this slide? So I'm going to just run down my little sheet of what I did. So this one is, I won the award, a nationwide award for the Madeline Hill Herb Society of America for teaching for education in 2019, right before COVID. So that was one of my great accolades because people put your name in for that award. And the letters that people wrote about me, you know, it was really, really nice. I also got into City of Walnut Creek magazine, and when they were honoring women in the community for their work for the environment. I wrote for the Contra Costa Times for 14 years, Walnut Creek magazine. I'm currently, you'll see me in the Daily Courier here and now if you're looking over at the Home and Garden section. I think this weekend there's going to be one on wreath making. And then I was the advisory member for Transitional Options Program, the DVC Horticulture Program, Markham Arboretum, IPM Advocate for UC Davis, Bay-Friendly Coalition. And I was on once I got out of my internship at the Botanic Garden, I was on their board for a while. So those are all my little accolades. And there's where I am now. Yes, love the Josephine County Food Bank. It's just it ties everything that, my whole life has been about. So I'm an older adult, didn't think I would get hired. Well, you get to a certain age and you're like, oh, well, these other. Anyway, it's a great staff. We have a lot of fun. Jan is out there every week cleaning squash or something else, right? Anyway, so I gave a presentation about the food bank, and I know everybody here knows about them, but it's a really great place to work. That was last summer. Okay, now this is a little bit about me, my wabi-sabi, my art. This is one of the things that I love to do. Years ago, my friend who's in California and we're always foraging and we're always making stuff. Does anybody know Andy Goldsworthy's stuff? Artist? Ephemeral, yeah, you're shaking. So he makes things that just go back into nature. I like to make a joke to my kids. When I die, it's all either going to be rocks that go out or composted, because I don't really have a lot of stuff. So this is a Japanese term. You can actually go up a little bit more. And so years ago, Susan and we saw this class and we're like, wabi-sabi, my gosh, we're doing that. So anyway, there's actually a term for what we've been doing, and that's just finding things. Life still goes on, doesn't matter. So you turn it into something new. So that's how I spend my free time. I do a small vignette every morning, and it's my way of meditating because I have boxes and boxes of seeds and things I've collected that day, or the leaf from the parking lot I picked up at my desk. Jan, I don't know if you've noticed on the front, I have that little thing going on that Kristen likes to write. But she likes some of the stuff up there. Anyway, and the kids that come in always look at it. So I'm just always collecting. Okay. I also do a lot of nature journaling, which is what I do with the kids and myself. I have lots of journals because I'm so interested in plants. So it started that way. I did botanical illustration when I was in college. So I was drawing. I only use pen now because there's so much perfectionism with botanical illustration that it was driving me crazy. So I'm very loose on what I do now. But I like to document where I am, what I'm doing. And I usually write in it every day or draw it. And this is my little slice of heaven right now. I didn't take a picture of the house, but I got this little space where I can propagate lots of plants. We have an acre and a half, and we're in oak woodland, oak madrone habitat, and I don't want to put in a lot of plants that aren't native because I want to honor where I am. And so, because I love to propagate plants, I'm growing a lot of the perennials I'm going to put in. I have to buy the shrubs and stuff, but just now, I think I just put in about 80 to 90 perennials that I started last fall from seed. So that's how I spend my life when I'm not working. It's always plants or something. And there's some of my seed collection. I will say during COVID, I found a lot of artists in Australia who are just like me. And I was able to take some classes. I mean, it's amazing, like drawing classes and stuff. Anyway, there's a lot of Australians that are like me. There's some beautiful seed pods up close in a bowl. Looks like snow. That's just a collage from last winter. So I do that. That's what I do with my spare time. And this is actually a quote. I don't know if you can get the whole thing up. When I was working for the Gardens at Heather Farm, I came up with a program called Discovering Your Sense of Place. But it was based on the fact, on his work. And that's what we were trying to teach people, is to know where you are and love to learn it. Because if you love where you are and you love to learn it, then you're going to hopefully take care of it. And that's it. That's who I am. Thank you. Same name as the question.
Here.
All right.
Questions?
Yeah. I don't know what brought you here.
Oh, that's true. I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Okay, so actually,
Repeat the question.
oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna repeat it. Why did I come to Oregon? Okay, so I moved to California in the 70s, and then my current husband came out to California in 2020. Because that we reconnected. He was actually friends with my sister, and we reconnected. We were both single at that time. And I said to him at the time, because he actually had been running NASCAR, race stuff, all this stuff, and he came here and I said, we'll go back, because I love my family. Let's go back to Pennsylvania. After my kids, they were too young. My son was 10. So all this time goes by, and he's like, I really like the West, but California isn't really what it is. And I came up in 2012, I think, I don't remember, but I went to a conference in Portland, and he said, let's make a vacation of it. So he started getting this whole thing in his head, because it does remind us both of Pennsylvania a lot without the mountains. And we wanted to be back in the community. I mean, he was living in the Amish country. So when he came to California, oh my God, he literally, his neighbor, he was, horse and buggies or what. So I was promising that, yeah, we wouldn't stay. So we love Oregon, and I love Grants Pass. So when I first came here and COVID had hit, I actually ended up working in Medford for Wild Birds Unlimited. And I liked the job, but I really wanted to be in my community, which is why joining Rotary made sense too. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I've got two questions.
Okay.
One, why is my fennel a root and not a bulb? And two, why are my tomatoes so small?
I'm not going to answer that right now.
You don't need to answer.
It's kind of like when people ask you like a plant name and then it just like goes out of your head. Or I can only remember the botanical name and not the common name, or vice versa.
Thank you. Okay, Sergeant at Arms, Kelly. Kelly's gonna come up and collect happy bags. Probably teach us about something, I'm sure.
Okay, first of all, sláinte. You don't know what that means. You have to have some Celtic roots to understand. No, I'm not teaching you about anything particularly fun. I'm talking facts today. Can you all hear? And my facts are rather sobering because I'm focusing on the backpack program. I don't know if you realize this, but in Oregon, I got online and looked at some research that was done by Oregon State University, and it's rather recent research as well. And out of 36 counties, we are number 6 for food insecurity. And just as a little background here, we all know, because this is how they prefaced their study, food insecurity in school-aged children affects both physical and mental health, but also academic performance. We know this. And there are a bunch of teachers in the room too, like myself. We know this. So this food insecurity rate in Oregon is 19.3%. So really, if you put that into simpler terms, it's about 1 out of every 5 kids. So that's big. And because of that, we are looking at our backpack program. Thank heavens we have one. And the food insecurity starts young. It starts with little kids, preschool. And so what I am doing today is I would like to, heavens, if you have a happy buck, great. But I'd like to do backpack bucks today, because why? I think we all need to be aware of this.
We all need to be a part of it. I think Jody is right when she says the more money she has in this program, the more we can do. And that's what's the most important piece here, is what are we going to do? We really have an issue. And that's what we're all about, is solving issues, contributing to solving these issues. So I'm going to start out today with, I've got $20 that I am giving to the backpack program. So how are we going to do that? I'm going to come around and collect your dollars. And then they're going to be handed over to Jody. Thank you, thank you. This is for Brenda and for the backpack. Yay. Oh, look at me. Okay, I'm off this. Get the whole thing. No, just kidding. Okay. Oh my God, I feel like I'm on a game show. I love you people. Thank you so much for thinking of this lady right here and what she is doing for our kiddos.
Kelly, you want to tell the folks on Zoom how to pay?
Yes, you are going to have to jump through the screen. No, that's not going to work, is it? You have the wonderful device called PayPal. And so what you're going to do is that very same thing. You're going to give bucks to PayPal. And can they put backpack somewhere on that?
Laurel, do you know if there's a way on the PayPal?
Laurel?
Yeah, on PayPal.
Okay, so on PayPal, would you please write backpack on there? And then we will get that money to Jody and her backpack program. I'm not done. Who else has bucks?
Take that $20 and I would 10 to Patrice here, and the other 10 is to Bev, who helped us plant an entire row of green beans that we picked for weeks. I only remember this for a long time.
I wanted to give my happy bucks, of course, to backpack program like we're all doing, but also I wanted to have happy bucks. Chris is coming today to give the introduction for Brenda at the award dinner tonight. So I'm really thrilled that he's coming, and I'm really thrilled that Brenda's getting her award today.
Yes. Yeah, and Chris is around too, and Brenda, I have happy bucks for Brenda. Congratulations, Brenda, you deserve that very much. Jody, as far as starting arm goes, December 22nd, will you be leading a ornament exchange roundtable? Thank you. I'm gonna write you down. You get a bag of goodies too if you want. Thank you. And to add on to your food issues and your food statement, we do have, in conjunction with the Wednesday Club, the big Rotary Club, we have the fork program going, which is something we contributed to and hopefully we'll be able to participate in when that gets fleshed out. But it's basically what we're doing is providing food in sort of a in-house pantry style at the schools. So they have to-go kits with food for kids that need to bring food home. And I don't know how we're going to participate as individuals or not. We're going to figure that part out. And Patrice, that was a lovely presentation. Thank you. And would somebody stay on Zoom after me so we could work out the microphone issue, please?
People, but I wanted to dedicate them to my brother turned 18 today, so I'm just so proud of him.
And money keeps rolling in.
I'll give $20 to the backpack, but it's also because a few months ago we had Dan Motta here talking about CASA, and that sparked an interest between Jim and I. And this, in the month of October, we had our training, and this past Monday, Jim and I were sworn in by Judge McLaughlin as CASA.
You know, I could just get it to
I had two things. I know, I already did one. I mean, come on. This is one of those days. No, I know. Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to say two things. Number one, I just talked with Tim Sweeney actually last week at a meeting I was at, and one of the things that Grants Pass is going to do is they are actually applying for what's called a supper program. So now currently they have free lunch, free breakfast, free lunch, but they are also, because of the food insecurity in our particular area, going to be starting a supper program where they are open in the evening for families to come by so that they know kids can be. And that's because we qualify because we're food insecure. And another, I just wanted to say, this morning, I had the opportunity to meet with Keith Larkin, who is our new fire chief. And I just want to put a kudos to say we have really got a gem. He is very well versed in fire. He retired in 2015 with like 30 years, all of his years in fire safety and fire, and all in Northern California, down in Fresno, which we know, talk about fire, having to be fire ready. He just happened to retire in 2015 and he didn't quite know what to do with himself. And his mother lives in Weaverville still, and he lives up in Washington, and he happened to pass through Grants Pass and find this little community that kind of was looking for some direction, and he put himself here with us. So I am so honored to think that we were able to get such a great guy to come to our community to help us as we move through our fire issues and developing a good fire safety program. So that's
Oh, I don't know, what's the?
Well, so far from what I've been able to see, it looks like it's about $242.
Well, I just wanted to tag on to Doug's comment about the pork program, and we will be able to make donations through the Redwood Education for that program also on a basis.
Everyone who contributed to the backpack project today. And again, if you're on Zoom, you can do it via PayPal, or you can write a check to the RG Rotary Foundation and send that in. And Jan, you'll have to remind me the PO box for that.
Yeah, 176.
PO Box 176, if you want to make a contribution to the RG Rotary Foundation, and you can get that to the backpack project as well.
97528.
Yes, 97528.
Or you can just give it to me now.
Or yeah, if you're in the room, you can just pass it to Jan. Okay, so last thought of the day, it's November, so I believe it's already November. But this is the month, of course, of Thanksgiving and gratitude. So I found a quote from William Arthur Ward, who said that gratitude can transform common days into Thanksgivings, turn routine jobs into joy, and change ordinary opportunities into blessings. So thank you to everyone, and we will see you next week.
I can go ahead and leave.
Don't yet, because we're gonna test the mics out.
Oh, that's right.
Or Caver. Is Caver there? She's probably not. She's probably just off doing something.
Like the whole time that I was sitting here, I could hear it through my tablet.
Okay, and right
So, and
now,
it seemed to be working, like whatever you did, you know, Mike said it worked.
so this is what's on, I think, because it's called webcam, and that's high definition webcam.
Okay, let me see pictures.
Okay, go ahead again.
And they talk now.
Yeah, and I hear myself because this is picking me up real well.
Really? So it's that.
It's that microphone. Well, I clicked on it.
Yeah.
There's the problem with that microphone. It's not
So there's
working.
something not working with
And that's the new one.
this. Let's see for a second.
On blue. Does it have a volume?
It's got a volume button.
Ah, that
Oh,
was
it's
some clothes
interesting.
you wanted
When
to
I
see what
hit that,
happened.
it turns red.
Yeah, that must be off.
Canadian one.
Hang on, let me click back.
I was seeing
Let me
this.
click back.
I would really like to
Oh,
try.
okay.
So she's gonna sign up.
This is the receiver.
Okay, Doug, we need.